People are catching on to the grift. How do I know that? Because we do facts and data on this show, unlike the fact checkers. Here, post-millennial, Hannah Nightingale. Biden's approval rating plummets to 36.3%. Here's the question now. Who the hell are these 36.3%? Who are the 36.3% that still think this guy is for real? Who? Yeah. He brings up a good point, Joe. They're all employees of CNN. And I have a few MSNBC folks in there as well. I got a clip coming up from Roger Stone about CNN later that's hilarious. Folks, people are catching on to the grift. I hate predictions. I'm hesitant to give it, but whatever. I'm going to dive in anyway. My prediction is, at least over the course of the next few months, longer-term horizons are obviously much harder to predict. But at least in the next few months, Biden's approval may even get worse. 36 is really a floor because you got to figure at least 20-25% of the country are probably radical leftists that don't really care about what Joe Biden does. They just care about not letting Republicans get power. They'll support him no matter what. But I think this is going to get even worse. I think this has the potential to go even lower than 36.3%, which would be just a historic collapse in the first year of a presidency. We'll see. Why do I say that? Because, folks, nothing Joe Biden is doing is working. The legal losses are piling up. The policy losses are piling up. The messaging losses are piling up. Everything is piling up on Biden. And they have this thing in politics we used to joke about on the show a lot. It's called the Big Mo. What's the Big Mo? It's a very scientific term. Momentum. I'm kidding, of course. The Big Mo. When momentum starts to go against you and you start piling on the losses, it's very, very hard to stop. Look at this article at Just the News. It'll be in my newsletter today. Biden's legal defeats rapidly piling up across the nation on a broad array of policy fronts. He was forced to reinstitute Trump's immigration policy at the border, Biden, by the courts. He lost the CMS case, Center for Medicaid Medicare Services, yesterday, trying to force vaccines on people. He's losing the OSHA case. Here's just a few of them. I'll go back to that first one, Geese. Sorry about that. I screwed that up. I just want here. It says the losses came after the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Fifth Circuit temporarily blocked the president's border mandate requiring private businesses, broader mandate, with 100 or more employees to ensure all workers get vaccinated or submit to testing. That's blocked. Here's the next one. Again, we have the border getting blocked. There's another ruling that came out of Eastern District of Kentucky blocking the administration from implementing its vaccine mandate for government contractors and subcontractors. Folks, there's two important points I need to leave you with here. You know, it's one thing to talk about the news. It's another thing to put the news in context for people who work hard for a living like you, make it digestible. That's my job here. It's my goal. Number one, again, the losses will pile up and the Big Mo is working against Biden now. This will get worse. Based on public polling data, based on the legal losses, based on the fact that his policy momentum is now gone and all of his policy initiatives have failed. The infrastructure bill, it's not going to do anything for infrastructure. And the Build Back Worse plan, if it passed, will be an inflationary disaster. But the second most important takeaway from all this is this, and I'll get to this in a bit too, as it segues nicely to another story. The legacy of the Donald Trump presidency is going to be a lot of things. The tax cuts, regulatory reform, some semblance of control at the border for the first time in a long time. But I would argue to you strongly, and I had Jenna Ellis on my radio program yesterday make this same case, who was one of President Trump's former attorneys, that the most important accomplishment of Trump term one, I don't want to say Trump legacy because it's not done yet. He's likely going to run again. But the most important accomplishment of Trump term one was the courts. Listen, not every single judge we appointed turned out to be a gem, but he appointed a lot. Was it roughly 20+% of the judiciary are now Trump appointees? Folks, that matters. You are seeing it echo throughout the judicial system now with these Biden losses. Not all of them were Trump appointees, but with these Biden losses, with the Supreme Court case now, this landmark case on abortion where the questioning yesterday, I don't want to make any predictions, but the questioning yesterday was very, very, very harsh, directed at these pro-abortion people. I would make a strong case to you that President Trump's most important legacy is hands down going to be his transformation of the courts. And I think if he gets elected again in 2024, we'll see even more of that. I know it doesn't get a lot of press. Well, I shouldn't say it gets a decent amount of press in the conservative space, but sometimes in the left too. I don't want to be dramatic. That doesn't do us any good. But it didn't get the hoopla that the tax cuts did. The transformation of the courts is a huge deal.
You just heard the Dan Bongino Show.